Bellator paid me purse-wise. On the purse, they paid me more than the UFC paid me, though.
See, I always tell people there's money. Everybody's like, oh man, you got to be in the UFC. That's where all the money is. I'm like, dude, there's people who make more money outside of the UFC in other organizations, right? Like UFC has that prestige, right? You look at Kayla Harrison. She just left PFL to fight in the UFC because she's done everything in PFL.
And me, when I do my contracts, I win or lose, I get the same money. I never did this to show I get this, and if I win, I get.
Rampage Jackson unexpectedly set the MMA world ablaze with a single sentence, celebrating not just money, but a decade of overdue justice, as he proudly showed off his portion of the $375 million settlement former fighters had fought for since 2014. Unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetically himself. Rampage's joy over finally receiving fair compensation struck a nerve with fans, former fighters and UFC boss Dana White alike, highlighting years of underpayment and sparking an online uproar. What seemed like a simple holiday joke quickly became a symbol of the UFC being forced to confront long-ignored issues. While insiders scrambled to manage the fallout, from one of the sport's most iconic figures, turning a court victory into a public celebration.
Left UFC because they stole my Reebok deal. They stole my Reebok deal. That was my and Reebok team. UFC and Reebok, they tried to get me out. And they tried to get me one of them kids. I'm leaving. They tried to make me sound like I retired. I went sound like I retired. I fought Bellator for years. I left them. Something happened where I owed them where I owed them. I had to buy something like that. I had to buy myself contract. I did have a UFC contract. I did have to pay like 1.7 million.
What's the most amount of
with pay-per-view and everything? I probably made them something like that. Most money was up there.
Wow.
Million.
Getting a cut of the pay-per-view.
It was. I don't want to say the numbers, but I don't want to say the numbers. It was over 5 million. It was over 5 million because of the pay-per-view.
When I do my contracts, when I do my contracts, I win or lose, I get the same. If I lose, I get half for something. I get half for something. You come and watch me fight. You come and win or lose. I'm gonna get paid. I don't care what. I don't care what. I think that's disrespectful. I think that's unfair. You know what I'm saying? Unfair. You know what I'm saying? Like one person should be
it's not
one
like you work a 40-hour week job. It's not like you work a 40-hour week job. They're like, oh, you show up. They're like, oh, 30 hours. You know, 30 hours of your check. Say that with fight. I agree with you. There should not be a show. There should not be a show win. There's no such thing as an incentive. I've never met somebody who ever stepped just to show up and lose. Just to show up and lose.
We both know this guy. We both know this guy. And he keep it real about it. Bob Sapp.
When I first made my first money, I think that's like the more famous than we got rich. More famous than we got more followers than we got more followers than we got dollars. We got what our looking at us. We got Bill comes and they're looking at you. So like you got to really like at a young age. I saw that. I paid for every behavior for everybody. I did buy my mama a house. And I had my brothers. I learned that, but I learned.
Dana White was already navigating a storm over fighter pay, the Paramount deal. And fan backlash when Rampage Jackson reignited the debate by publicly celebrating his long-fought settlement, exposing years of blocked sponsorships and missed opportunities. Unfiltered and unapologetic, Rampage's comments validated the frustrations of countless fighters trapped in restrictive UFC contracts, turning a personal victory into a viral moment that forced the organization to confront its pay practices amid its biggest media deal ever. Much to Dana's fury,
asked for is the minimum fighter pay, which is $12,500, to be changed to $50,000, so that if fighters, you know, have to work multiple jobs, they fight once a year, they would still be able to live off twice a year. They'd make $100,000. So great. So that's been my only. So that's been my only to Dana to change, and that would only cost the UFC $20 million. So it seems like you made $3-4 billion. Why not just a little bit more to the fighters? It's only 20 and that's been my biggest thing. And that's been my biggest thing. Make that change and make that change.
We offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. More than Lesnar, more than anybody. And he turned the deal down. I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. He doesn't want to take a lot of risk. He's in a good position. Feels like he's in a good position. Where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money. So we're gonna let him do that. We're gonna let him do that. Release him from his contract. Give up our right to match. And he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants.
When you went over to ONE FC, how do they pay over there? How do they pay over there? Is it comparable to the UFC? Comparable to the UFC?
Everybody's contract's different. Everybody's contract's different. I'm very happy where I'm very happy where everybody's totally different. But everybody's totally different.
you
I don't like arguing. I don't like arguing. I don't like remember when I fought. What was it? Like I remember when I fought Curioso, I made $150,000. And then I'll fight the next challenger, Hiraguchi. I would make less money. I would make less money. Right now, I'm like, how the fuck is this? Right now, I'm like, how the fuck? Because you always get your showing your win. You're showing your win. You're showing a win, right? Your show might be 150K. Your show might be 150K, and your win's $50,000 bonus. Typically goes up by escalator. 3,000, 10,000, 15,000. It all depends. But then when I fought, Chris Curioso, I made, $150,000, and then when I fought Hiraguchi, I made less.
So what was the holdup with UFC? Led you?
There was a lot of frustration. I think the pay first fight reduction really the same.
Really?
I feel like I was in the right. I feel like I was in the right place. The Regulus fight was like that. Wasn't hurt me at all.
You win the Cyril Gane fight.
I have no guarantee that when I made this contract, I have been told the power about will change. So how about we change some fear? That was a clear fear.
And what did you want?
Yeah.
What did you want?
Well, unless he was the one right in the check, I don't see how he can know that as the inside one, saving those money after leaving the UFC, from what the UFC was just a trap. He wasn't a solid contract. That's a lie.
You think you made more money doing MMA or something?
I've only been streaming for 8 months. I've made more in 8 months than I did in fighting him. In 25 years. My stream, the clip, I get.
As Rampage Jackson celebrated his long-fought settlement, the MMA world was forced to confront decades of underpaid fighters and blocked opportunities. From the Reebok deal to lost sponsorships, exposing the harsh reality behind UFC's corporate rise. His unfiltered joy became a symbol for both past injustices and ongoing inequities, energizing fans and fighters while undermining Dana White's polished media image during the Paramount deal. Rampage's moment wasn't just personal, it highlighted the systemic pay issues that continue to haunt UFC, inspired a new wave of scrutiny and demands for fairness.
Get more numbers than my fight.
The more Rampage spoke, the more the conversation spiraled into the deepest, most uncomfortable corner of modern MMA. The idea that maybe everything fighters have been saying for years was never complaining. It was the truth finally catching up. Because as Rampage kept reminding fans how many sponsorships he lost, how many opportunities were blocked, how many deals were controlled or restricted, it brought back the entire era of fighters being forced into the Reebok deal, an era where fighters went from earning 6 figures in sponsor money to scraping by on $3,000 to $5,000 per fight, all while the UFC became more valuable than ever. It reminded people of Brendan Schaub saying he once made 6 figures in sponsors per fight and then went down to pennies. It reminded people of Donald Cerrone saying he lost $80,000 per fight overnight. It reminded people of every fighter who watched their income drop when the UFC went corporate. And Rampage talking about it now, while cashing a legal settlement, suddenly felt like proof that those losses were real enough for a court to award hundreds of millions of dollars. You could feel the energy shift, the memes, the reactions, the jokes, the celebrations. It all turned into something heavier because Rampage wasn't just exposing the past. He was shining a spotlight on the present. And this present moment is a nightmare for the UFC because the company is entering a new era of scrutiny right when they least want it. The Paramount deal is the biggest media contract in the history of combat sports. And while Dana White celebrated it, calling it the future of the sport, every analyst pointed out the same cold truth. The UFC doubled its media revenue and fighters didn't get one piece of it. Rampage getting paid from an old settlement only made that more obvious. Hundreds of fighters finally got compensated for being allegedly underpaid between 2010 and 2017. Meanwhile, fighters competing in 2025 watched the UFC secure $1 billion agreement and started asking where their extra money is. And this is why Dana White allegedly exploded behind closed doors when Rampage went public, because the UFC is trying to present a clean, unstoppable, well-polished corporate image going into a new global distribution era. But Rampage Jackson celebrating his settlement money is the exact opposite of that image. It's messy, it's emotional, it's unpredictable. It's one of their former champions smiling at the camera and basically saying they should have paid us right the first time. And this fuels everything fighters have been quietly whispering for years. It connects straight to Francis Ngannou, leaving the UFC after becoming heavyweight champion and demanding contractual freedom. It connects to John Jones calling his pay embarrassing before renegotiating. It connects to Demetrius Johnson saying he felt the UFC didn't value him even as a champion. It connects to Jorge Masvidal threatening retirement until he received a new deal. It connects to Nate Diaz refusing fights until he received higher pay. And it connects to every unranked fighter on the prelims trying to survive off a paycheck that barely covers a training camp. So while Rampage celebrated money that symbolized justice for the past, current fighters saw it as a sign of what could happen if they push harder in the future, and Dana White saw it as a potential avalanche, a reminder that if fighters keep challenging the system, the UFC may one day face a second wave of legal pressure, a second settlement, or a demand for a revenue-sharing structure like other major sports leagues.
Rampage Jackson's viral celebration of his long-awaited settlement didn't just mark personal victory, ignited the MMA world by spotlighting systemic UFC pay issues. Fans resurfaced clips showing fighters still earning only a fraction of revenue compared to major sports leagues. While the company rakes in billions, his unfiltered joy highlighted decades of blocked opportunities and underpayment. Coinciding with broader controversies and FBI investigations into fight manipulation, making it a perfect storm that exposed the stark gap between UFC profits and fighter pay. Rampage laughed, joked, and celebrated, inadvertently delivering a devastating critique of the sport, proving that even legends can turn personal wins into a powerful statement on justice.